Hi everyone, welcome to today's One Card Wonder Wednesday for today, January 16th, 2018. I hope everybody's having a good day. So far so good for me. I wanted to show you these adorable needle and thread stamp set and the needlepoint elements dies today. So I made a cute little get well card using both of these. I hope this is showing up on the screen. I need to find my feed here. So if you're joining me, just go ahead and comment, ask questions, whatever, while I'm working on this card. If you see something that you like, let me know. I appreciate you watching. And I will get started. First, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the stamp set. Hi, Aunt Sherry. A little bit about the stamp set. It's one of the new distinctive stamp sets, but this one is photopolymer. So sometimes the images, if your ink pad is really juicy and you get a lot of ink on your stamp, your image is not going to come out as crisp and clear. And I'm going to show you that in just a second. I want to show you the images that I'm going to use that I stamped earlier. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see the detail on these or not because I used lighter color inks. But I stamped some in some Flirty Flamingo, which is a little bit darker, and you can see the stitched element that is on that stamp. It looks like embroidery, which I think is really pretty. But like I said, these two are pretty light, so it's hard to see the detail on them. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to use this Stampin' Spot. I found using the Stampin' Spots, it seems to help get a little bit better image for these stamps. And I'm just going to show you how that turns out when you stamp it just plain like this, and see how I've got that bare spot in the middle. Now you need to use one of the Stampin' Pierce mats, which I just had one, and of course I can't find it now because I'm on camera. Here it is. So just put your Stampin' Pierce mat underneath it, because that gives it a little bit of cushion. When you're using the photopolymer stamps, you don't have any cushion like you do with the red rubber stamps. So then go ahead and just ink up your stamp. And like I said, I've found that using these works better sometimes than the other ink pads. And now when you get that, you're gonna get the full image will stamp. And you've got that detail of the stitching on there, which I think is a good helpful hint to know if you don't have one of these Stampin' Pierce mats, if you have something else that's a little bit squishy. I mean, not super squishy, but just enough to give a little bit of give underneath your paper when you're using this stamp set. All right, I'm gonna put that on the cleaner so it'll be out of the way. So the first thing we're gonna do is I'm going to grab my big shot and we're gonna run this die through. And now the wonderful thing about this die is it is going to leave a stitched impression, which is really awesome. So you're just going to make your sandwich with your Stampin' Up! Plates. You're going to put your regular plate, your thin die adapter, and then this is one of my older ones. You can see it's all bent up, but it still works just fine. Hi, Sean. How are you? So then I'm going to take a piece of the Balmy Blue, and we're going to use this die. Now this die is really cool because it just leaves a stitched impression on the paper. And I'm just going to kind of put it in the middle, but just on a little bit of an angle because I want these leaves pointing up and down on the card. And then you're going to put your second plate over and just run it through. If I don't move everything all over doing this. Okay, super simple, but I just wanted to show you how easy these dies work in the big shot. Hi Laura, how are you? So now once you've run that die through, you can see it's kind of stuck to the paper. That's no big deal. It's just because it hasn't cut all the way through. But it's just gonna leave that awesome stitched impression on here, which I think is gorgeous. So that's the first step for this Get Well card that we're making today. I'm gonna put that back over here with the dies. This sheet of paper was 3 3/4 wide by 5 inches. This is 4 inches by 5 1/4. And we're just gonna use some snail adhesive to adhere the Balmy Blue onto the Whisper White. Do any of you have this stamp set? And if you have you used it? Do you like it? This is my first play with it was today, and I do like it. It'll be one of my new favorites, I'm sure. So once I had that on there, I decided I would just go ahead and use a lighter yellow color just because I think yellow is a nice sunny color for a get well card. And I'm going to use some dimensionals, and we're just gonna pop this up on that card, and then we will get to putting together the rest of the card. Like I said, I've already pre-stamped everything that we need for this one, so it's not gonna be a lot of stamping in this video, but it just turns out really cute when you get it all put together and you see how to put the elements together. Hi, Lois. So now that you've got that on there, this is So Saffron, by the way, for the background. Or the base of the card, I should say, not the background. I took a piece of Whisper White, and I used, this is another die that comes in that needlepoint element set, and I ran it through, and it left this little stitching on here. But this works with the Pretty Label Punch. It's the exact same shape, it's just a little bit smaller, so then you can just put it through the Pretty Label Punch. I just wanted to show you this step because I think it's just a nice little extra thing that this coordinates with. And so if you already have the Pretty Label Punch, just know that there's a die in this set that coordinates with it. This is going to be the base for all of our stuff right here, for all of our floral and whatnot. So I stamped this in Petal Pink, so it's really light. Like I said, it's hard to see kind of the stitching detail just because of the lightness of the ink. And I attached it just to the rear, on the rear side of that paper. I put some of the snail, and I just attached it to the back like this. And then I have these other, I should just bring all my elements out so you can see everything that I have already. I stamped some of these leaves that are in the stamp set. This is all one stamp, so when you see it on the stamp Hirana, you've got this little section in between, but that's so you can keep them perfectly spaced because there's a die to cut them out. Now once I cut them out, I then took them, like I'm going to take this one that I did in Granny Apple Green, and I'm just going to cut it in half because I just want these leaves up at the top, and so I'm just going to add a little bit of snail on the back of that and adhere that to the back of that flower. So now once you've got that, you can start working on the other side over here. The other side, I use the So Saffron flower that I made, and you can see where I was practicing stamping on the other side of the paper. Always use your paper. If you stamp on one side, you can turn it over and use the other side for something. And then I just did that on the lower right corner. And I'm going to do the same thing, except I'm going to use this Mossy Meadow that I stamped. And you don't have to worry if you get ink on the inside because you're covering this up anyway. So I just take a little bit of snail again, do the exact same thing. So it's pretty much the opposite of the other end. And see how this is going to fit on the card. It's going to look really cute when we get it done. Have any of you tried the distinctive stamps before? And if so, what did you think of them? Were they hard to use, easy to use? Now I have two of the smaller flowers, and I already put dimensionals on the back of these, but I want to also take these smaller leaves and I'm going to attach those to the back of these flowers. But I don't need quite so much, so I'm just going to cut a little bit more off from these because I don't need all that extra because these flowers are smaller. Get that out of the way. I feel like all you're seeing today is my arm. So I'm just going to go ahead and put a little bit of snail on the back of this because it's easier to get it on there, and then flip it around. And I want the Granny Apple Green on this one, and just hook those leaves right to the back of that. And since you've got this dimensional already on here, then you just go ahead and layer it right on here. Then we're going to do the same with this other So Saffron flower. We're going to layer it at the top with the Petal Pink flower. Take the backing off and just kind of layer it up here because we want our sentiment to go right down the center of this piece. So the next thing I did do was stamp the sentiment because I wanted to get that on there and make sure it was in place before I put any of the other elements on there. So I used the Get Well Soon because I don't have a lot of Get Well cards, and I'm like, it's kind of the season, people are getting sick. Maybe, you know, someone's sick. It would be nice to get a cute little Get Well card in the mail. So I used a piece of petal pink paper. It's about a 1/2 inch wide, and I just have a longer strip. I'm just going to cut it down after I stamp Get Well Soon, and I stamped it in Night of Navy. Make sure it's inked up really well. Stamp it on here first just to check. Just get that stamped on there. And then I'm going to go ahead and just use my paper snips and cut that off. So it's about the same length on each end, distance between the end of the piece of paper and the letters. I'm going to go ahead and put a couple of mini dimensionals on the back of that. You don't need a whole lot. I mean, I put 3 just so it doesn't sag in the middle, but since they're the mini ones, obviously you're not using as much. So have any of you ordered from the new catalog yet? The Occasions catalog and the Celebration catalog? You got any fun new things? So I'm going to place this, so right at the end of this pretty label punch that we punched out, this is going to go straight across this way. And now that we have that on there, we can add all these other little extras, which I used a little bit of glue, and I used the needlepoint element dies and cut out these leaves, which are really cute. And I just put a little bit of glue on the back and the front of the stem of that, which it's so tiny, so you barely have to squeeze it. And then I just stuck this kind of in here so it would glue down. And then I did another one on the other side over here, kind of tucked behind that smaller flower. And I just added a little bit extra because I think it looks pretty when you got a little more sticking out from behind the flowers and whatnot on your card. So now to get these gorgeous little white leaves that I did, what I did was I ran that same die that we did for this balmy blue piece, and I ran it through on a white sheet of paper, and you can't see these on the camera, but these are stitched. They have the stitching around them, and then I just fussy cut those leaves out. They are actually these leaves right here, but they were on this white sheet of paper, and because I wanted to add some more stitched elements just to this piece here. So now that I have this done, I'm just going to flip this over. You can see all the goodness on the back here. I lay those on there wherever you feel you want them. And then I use my dimensionals just to adhere those down because I want those to be a little bit further back, so it does help give the card some dimension. And I used about 4 dimensionals on this just to make sure it stays up. Actually, I think I'm going to give it a 5th one right here just to, because it's a little heavy with all this stuff on it. Oh good, Aunt Sherry ordered some new things from the catalog. Those should be coming pretty soon too, I think, Aunt Sherry. It'll be like Christmas when you get those boxes. That's the way it feels for me anyway. Because I love doing this sort of thing, so it makes me happy when I see those boxes on the front door. And then you're just going to flip it over and you can see how you have those wonderful... It's a little different than this one because that's okay. You kind of make it your own as you do it, and it's all right if they're not all exactly the same. And then you just want to make sure your Get Well Soon is straight on the card because that's your message. And for this card, I wanted it straight, and I wanted a little bit of the stitching showing from on the blue that we did around. It kind of feels weird to cover up that beautiful stitched image that we just put on that paper, but it's also fun just to have a little bit of it sticking out, and then you've got all these other wonderful stamped elements put together on top of it. Now to add a little bling to it, oh good, you got your stuff yesterday, Aunt Sherry. To add a little bling to it, I used some of the Gingham Gala adhesive back sequins, and these are awesome because there's 2 that are opaque and the other 3 are pretty much see-through. So I used the yellow ones, which to me looked like saffron, and these ones that also kind of looked I'm not sure if they are Calypso. They're not Calypso Coral. Flirty Flamingo, maybe. I would have to look at the Gingham Gala paper. Let's see what the Gingham Gala paper says it is. Oh, it's Grapefruit Grove. I should know that by now. Grapefruit Grove. But I liked the way it looked with the petal pink ink and the paper that was on here, so I thought it matched pretty good. And then I just went ahead and used my paper piercer, and I just, you know, randomly put a couple of each color on here. Whoops, that one, the sticky didn't come with it. There we go. So they don't have to be perfectly spaced or anything. You can just put them wherever you want. And actually, I was thinking about adding a couple of rhinestones to this as well, just because I like rhinestones. And I think my rhinestones are right here. I just like that silver sparkle on cards. It just adds a little bit, in my opinion. And I'll just use some of the smaller ones, so you don't have to use big ones. But I like that it adds a little bit of extra sparkle to the card. And if you're sending a Get Well card, you might want to add a little extra sparkle so when they see it, they're like, oh, this is beautiful. It makes me feel better already. We can only hope, right? Okay, so then we have a piece of Whisper White cardstock. And this is the one I already used, and I'm just gonna flip it over. And we are going to use some petal pink ink. And there's this really cute stamp that is in, I have a piece of fuzz on my ink pad here. Get that off. It's this little stitched image, which I like. It's got these little curly cues and these leaves. And so I just use the petal pink ink, and I just stamp that at the very bottom of the page, because that's going to be on the inside of your card. I'm trying to make this year, like my upline said, the year of no naked insides on your cards. Got to put something on the inside. If it's not a sentiment, then a little image or something, just to give it that little bit of a wow factor when the person opens the card. So we're just going to adhere this onto the inside. And how cute is that with that little stitching at the bottom? It just gives it a little something extra, I think. And so I hope you liked today's One Card Wonder Wednesday. I enjoyed working on this card today. I actually had an entirely different card planned for an entire week, and then I just decided, nope, I want to use this set. So I played around with it this morning until I got exactly what I want. And like I said, when you use the darker colors, you can see that stitching a lot better on the camera, but here in person I can see that stitching on this card. It's just hard to see it from where you're at because you're not right in front of it. But thanks for watching. Don't forget, it is Celebration, so if you place an order that's $50, you get an item free out of the Celebration brochure. If you place an order that's $100 or more, you get one of the there's a level 2 item. There's a couple of level 2 items in the Celebration catalog that are worth $100, that you get with a $100 purchase. So just so you know, that's what's happening right now. So it is the best time of year to buy some things from Stampin' Up! Because you get some freebies. It's actually a perfect time to join. You don't have to sell. You can be a hobby demo and just use it for your own orders if you like, or not sell at all. But they have a great deal for the kit right now. The starter kit is $99, but you get to pick $175 of product from the catalog. So I just think it's a fantastic deal. If you're interested in that, just get in touch with me. I hope you enjoyed today's One Card Wonder Wednesday, and I will see you next week. Thanks for watching. Bye.